That's a 5-pounder all day if it's better one.
Swimming. Yes.
Stay on there.
Oh no. At that point, it was personal. I was getting that fish.
Wow! A 5 bass limits!
Yes! Let's freaking do this. Welcome to our post-tournament recap show from stop number 5 of the FLW Tour on Cherokee Lake. I'm Travis Moran alongside Red Gold Tomatoes pro Todd Hollowell, coming at you from the Polaris FLW studios. Todd, the FLW Tour has never been to Cherokee Lake. A lot of anglers fishing this for the first time. Why don't you break down some of the features?
You bet. First time to Cherokee. One of the gems out in East Tennessee. 28,000 acres, built in the 1940s. The Cherokee Dam was placed there on the Holston River. This place is full of not only quality fish, but quantity. These guys were catching a lot of fish, largemouth and smallmouth. This is an impoundment that is used for flood control and to generate electricity for the folks in East Tennessee. Fluctuates up to 30 feet from summer pool to winter pool, and right now it's about halfway in between. So this is about 15 feet that this lake can come up. Not a lot of cover in the lake right now. And we found that rocks continue to be the main cover in the fishery this week on Cherokee.
Now, with a lot of water to fish, some different species to target, there were a lot of keys that played into this. Why don't you break down some of those factors in the TH Marine Roadmap to Victory?
Most of the guys who found success this week had focused their strategies around spawning smallmouth, around boulders, around rock. And the key to them this week was really finding new fish. A lot of the competitors were fishing in the same areas. Fish were moving up as the week went along. So finding new fish, places where fish were replenishing, and weeding through all those numbers of fish. Culling up constantly throughout the day. You've seen a lot of guys with smallmouth expertise this week really move to the top of the leaderboard, and that 16-pound mark, that seemed to be a real key this week. If you could get to 16 pounds, you were one of the leaders at Cherokee.
Now, after 2 days of non-stop fishing action, our field of 163 anglers was cut down to 30. And to start day 3, it was absolutely beautiful, ideal conditions out there. The fishermen were ready to get it started, and so were the bass.
Go time, guys, let's get this.
Smallmouths just don't get enormous, and there's not an abundance of enormous smallmouth. So you're playing this numbers game of 2 3/4 pound fish to 3 3/4 pound fish, with a 4 plus being that true bonus fish. This week, you've got to figure out how to catch those better than average fish that are out there. I ain't that good, but I think he's better than nothing.
This is the last channel swing in the creek, just to see if maybe some pulled up on it. This game is so minimal, so you have to make adjustments, and that's what I'm trying to do right now. Just try to stay focused and not get spun out. Try to get the first bite in the boat. On the board. Not real big enough. And I was almost ready to pull my troll motor up, and I decided I was going to keep going down the bank. So I trolled down there real fast, and I remember I actually fished them yesterday, and they weren't any good. I didn't catch anything. I flipped in there, and one knocked slack in my line. Oh my God. Biggest one all week. Yes, thank you. That's a 5-pounder all day if it's an ounce.
When you're throwing over the rocks and into these rock crevices and a bass eats it off a bed, they tend to pick it up and swim away with it, and in doing so they end up oftentimes swimming around a rock. After breaking off once or twice, I switched to a 2-power bait caster, 12-pound test, and the straight fluorocarbon and that light bait caster allowed me to get some forgiveness if I set the hook on them, and it wasn't a clean hook set. If they were around a rock or something, I could still bury the hook without snapping the line.
little better fish.
There's so many fish in this thing. Everybody's catching them. Most guys are catching 25, 30 fish a day, and man, it's fun. That's a good one.
It was our quick start for our field of anglers on Saturday, and really no one exemplified that more than our young angler out of Pennsylvania, Gray Buck.
It's another one of those cracks I was talking about, kind of hides it from the wind there, like a little bit of current. Really like spawning back in those things.
Yeah, Gray was really dialed into the specific types of bank and rock that these both smallmouth and largemouth were spawning on at Cherokee this week.
Told you.
He was using a light Ned rig most of the time, a light shaky head. He was really targeting the boulders, the rocks, the little cracks and crevices in those up and down the main lake part of Cherokee Lake.
Pretty sure I caught that one yesterday. I weighed a 244 that I let go. Let's see what he weighs. 242, she lost a little weight since yesterday. Oh, he came off in the net. Yeah, there we go. Should be a big 2.
The FLW Tour is brought to you by Lowrance, Find, Navigate, Dominate. Ranger Boat, still building legends one at a time. Evinrude, learn more on evinrude.com. Polaris, the world leader in off-road vehicles. Yeti, built for the wild. And by TH Marine, from transom to trolling motor.
Todd, like you mentioned your roadmap to victory, finding new fish was very important. The other anglers did this really well, and so did Andrew Upshaw. When it came down to it, he was ready to look around.
He was, you know, and leading the tournament after the first 2 days, you would have expected him to just go back to the same areas where he had caught those fish on days 1 and day 2. But Andrew knew that these fish were spawning and they were pulling up with each day. They were replenishing and pulling up in new areas, and that was going to be a key for him that week.
And it paid off in a major way. Him catching a 4-pounder, followed up with a 3-pounder. All of a sudden, that calmed the nerves, and he started realizing it was his tournament to win.
Wow, that's crazy.
The fish that I caught today that I'm pretty sure is gonna put me in the top 10, I hooked it probably around noon was the first time. There he is, he's way back in there. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, let's hope we can get that one over the rocks. Oh, I came off. All right, well, we know that one was living. Kind of worked my way down the bank. I was like, I marked it. I came back about 45 minutes to an hour later, hooked her again. There she is. And I'm like, this time I got her. Stay on there. Stop. Oh no. At that point, I was like, it was personal. I was getting that fish. I threw in probably 3 times, finally got in that sweet spot, set the hook, and my line breaks. She jumped 6 times. I watched her, and I was like, she was trying to get the hook out of her mouth. I didn't think there was any chance I was getting her after that. I had less than 20 minutes left. I pulled in at 3:14. We had to be back here at 3:30. I hook her again. I gave her a big old kiss and I put her in the live well.
That's what I'm talking about.
And I'm pretty sure that's going to get me fishing on Sunday for the first time in the tour.
On these 4-day events, Todd, when we get into the 3rd day and cut down to our top 30, you usually start seeing the guys really dialed into the same type of patterns, the guys that have really figured it out, and that was pretty much the case. All these anglers had honed in on that smallmouth spawning bite. All except for one angler, Dylan Hayes.
That's right. Dylan told me that he had tried to make that smallmouth pattern work in practice, and it just wasn't panning out for him. The one guy that made it to the top 10 this week with all largemouth was Dylan Hayes.
Come here, girl. Woo! It's a 4-pounder. Doop.
At the end of day 3, our entire field of 30 anglers brought 5 fish limits to the scale, but no 5 fish were bigger than our Evinrude big mover of the day, Matt Becker.
Matt dropped a 17-pound, 11-ounce stringer on the scale, a mixed bag, smallmouth and largemouth. He moved all the way up from 19th place to 6th to make the cut into the final day.
The top 10 stacked with Andrew Upshaw barely holding on to the lead as we moved on to our 4th and final day. Stay tuned, more highlights from Cherokee Lake when we return. Welcome back to Cherokee Lake and stop number 5 of the FLW Tour.
This has been the most mentally challenging tournament I've ever been a part of, I think, because I know how big a 4-pounder is in this tournament. It's been very mentally challenging all week. Yeah. That's the way to start freaking day 4, son. Clutch. It's like a bonus, and right off the bat, before you got a 4-pounder, here you go. You only gotta get 4 more. I just gotta, it's really important to stay positive when I'm doing it, because I'm not getting as many bites as these smallmouth guys are getting. That's what I'm talking about. 4-pounder. One of them out of the way. Boop.
These fish that I caught had moved up overnight, and when I'm saying they're replenishing, those fish were new ones that came up to spawn in these boulders. That's one of the ones we're gonna need today. First 3-pounder. All of 3 for sure. I had previously caught them out of these boulders in the same area, and I had weighed those fish in, so I knew they were brand new fish, and I just wanted to go down that area, just check it, and when I had those extra bites there, knowing there was new ones, it got me real excited knowing I was gonna have a chance of catching a big bag today. That's a big one.
Pretty much the whole tournament I was throwing that Ned rig. I'm throwing it on a G Loomis 7.5 medium action rod, and I liked it better with these smallmouths because it's a little more parabolic, and it would keep the fish hooked up a little bit better. I'm using the Shimano 4000 spinning reel. I'm using 20-pound PX Sunline braid, and also with a 10-pound Sunline shooter fluorocarbon leader. But I'll take them for now. Yep. Aren't they pretty fish? Going in the box.
Todd, with the lake being down a little bit, it actually left some of the docks and some of the other lay-down trees high and dry. And so the real big factor in this tournament was the rocks.
That's right. You know, the water temps were in the mid-60s on the main body of water here at Cherokee, and the big boulders, the big rock banks, these guys were targeting those that had rock and clay mixed in with them. Places where the smallmouth and even the largemouth would go in and spawn beside. Those areas block the current. They give them a safe place to lay their eggs and hatch and spawn there. So those were the key spawning areas. A lot of these guys were looking for those big rocks, little rock points and rock turns on Cherokee.
One of the keys this week, I really feel like, to get those really big bites is that weighted hook Ocho. It really flutters down in front of their face, and the bigger ones tend, what it seems like to me, you kind of want it sitting right there and just kind of shaking in front of them and really natural looking. And the slow fall of this weighted hook, because it still falls really slow. That slow fall, I think, is what's triggering the bigger fish for me, and allowing me to catch those 3.5 to 4 pounders. Oh my gosh. Come on. It's a freaking tank. Come on, come on, come on. Golly. Okay. Come here. Yes!
Now in this tournament, we saw fish caught a number of different ways. A lot of the anglers going to that finesse bait, really slowing down, but then some of these other anglers not going that slow route.
Yeah, reaction baits were a big deal this week. Guys were catching them on jerk baits. Tom Mansour we saw with his swim jig. Dylan Hayes with a spinner bait, and a lot of guys were reporting good catches with a swim bait this week. But the dominant factor this week were the finesse tactics.
Absolutely. Where you talked about some of these guys throwing that swim bait around, guys like Andrew Upshaw, Gray Buck would go behind him, slow down with that finesse, really work those crevices, and catch 2, 3, 4 fish, where some of these guys were only catching 1 with the reaction baits.
Got her that time.
The FLW Tour is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here. Costa Del Mar. See what's out there. Real Tree Fishing, the official pattern of FLW. Power Pole, swift, silent, secure. Mercury Marine, go boldly. Triton Boats, the driving force of performance fishing. And by Nitro, performance fishing boats.
If we can get one more, we'll have our limit. That'll make us feel good. Then we can go hunting some new water and try to, there's one. There he is, that's a good one. That's a good one. It's a big one, stay down, stay down, stay down. Oh, it came off. I got caught up on that. He must have got caught up on that branch there. That's all right, we'll be able to get that one again. I lost one 3 times yesterday. Losing it once is not a big deal. We're gonna be all right. So this is gonna be the spot where we just lost one in 40 minutes now. Put a waypoint down on my Lowrance. She's sitting between that rock on the bank and that boulder. So we're gonna do this here again and try to make sure we put her in the boat. This one's gonna go a long way if we can get her. There she is. She's a big one. Get out of that rock. Get out of that rock. Yeah! Yeah! That's what I'm talking about. That's a bait. Yeah! We needed that one. Yeah!
I decided to hit it one more time, and I just caught one that called, and I actually ran it one time, caught one like a 3.5 pounder. I got to the end of it, I turned around, started coming back, and I lost one that was between 3 and 4. I don't know. It was a good one. I needed it. I don't know really why it came off. It didn't. It came off under the water. Oh, Bill Taylor, love this. I made a little change on my jig. I put a Zoom Big Salty chunk on there. And then I just kept on coming. I got back around where I caught that one on spinnerbait. I just caught another one, like 3 1/4 fish. Called out like a 2 3/4. I mean, just one at a time.
In the last 40 minutes, I ran to my backup stuff, my secondary stuff. As soon as I got there, I missed one of my first casts. 2 casts later, I had one hit it, and I missed it, dropped it back down, it ate it. It was a 3.5 pounder, and it was on a Strike King Rage Swimmer. And then I put it down. I don't know why. I picked up a shaky head and threw it out there, and I caught another one that weighed almost 2.4.
Ounces, man, ounces.
And it called my 2 smallest fish that I had in the bag. I'm a competitor. I want to win everything that I do. I don't care if it's a pickup game, a basketball, to you know, fishing a tournament. I want to win. And, you know, I've been short a few times on wins, but you know what? Maybe this is my time.
Cherokee Lake gave us everything we wanted in a bass fishing tournament this week. Lots of fish catches, lots of largemouth and smallmouth.
Absolutely, Todd. With how crazy and exciting the action was, it was only fitting that it was so close coming down to the end. And the only thing left to do was head over to Chris Jones at the scales and crown a champion of Cherokee Lake.
A 5 bass limits from across Wisconsin's Tom Mansour. 15 pounds, 11 ounces. Let's see your 2 best bass. It's gonna be close. Can he go wire to wire? Wow, a 5 bass limit. Andrew Upshaw for the win. You need 14.4. A 5 bass limit today. Worth 15 pounds, 6 ounces. Your champion is Oklahoma's Andrew Upshaw. 67 pounds and 10 ounces. Wow!
Oh, I'm gonna tell you right now, I got like one of the best support systems in fishing, and I know a lot of guys will say that, but I know I do. Like, I never doubt my support system because they're always there, they're always consistent, and they always love me. I wouldn't trade it for anything.